Hello, in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience taking a degree in philosophy. So I graduated in 2007 from the University of Western Ontario with a degree in philosophy, and this is a little bit about some of the ideas that I ran across and how they affected me. So first of all, I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity to take a degree at all, and certainly a degree in philosophy. I really enjoyed it. I think it was a great experience for me, just spending the time to think about these ideas. And so I do feel very fortunate at some level. I'll give it maybe start with a little anecdote. I walked into class one day and professor sat on a table at the front of class and said, "Women should not be involved in politics." And that was like the whole class. It went on, right, with a class full of university students, well, at least I'm professing something. At least I'm saying something is the case. I'm a professor, right? I'm supposed to profess something. One of my first assignments in philosophy was to do a 5-page paper on the allegory of the cave. So Plato, writing this story of Socrates explaining, it's this image of shadows being cast in a cave and everyone's just looking at the shadows, but there's a real world. There is a truth, but people might think they know the truth, but they don't actually know. Whereas it is possible to sort of, awaken or to see a vision of truth and realize, actually, I don't know the truth. And I did have a bit of that painful experience too. I remember at the end of my degree having a conversation about existentialism with maybe one of my classmates. He said, "Well, okay, wait a minute. Well, what do you mean by existentialism?" And I said, "Well, existence precedes essence." And he said, "You don't know what you're talking about. You're wrong." And I was like, ouch, ouch. I do not know what I'm talking about. So yeah, having those rigid ideas, right, can sometimes be quite a painful experience to realize I don't know, I'm ignorant, right? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, so that's a beautiful thing about being able to have a train of thought when you can follow it, right? That's such a cool experience to ruminate and follow that train of thought. Okay, maybe back to Allegory of the Cave. Oh yeah, it was like a 5-page paper. It took me 2 weeks to write. First, I think the first paper, because I previously took some general studies at the beginning, like linear algebra and science and stuff like that. But then getting into writing was a new experience, and it was quite difficult. So it's a good skill, some good skills in philosophy. I think Plato says that philosophy is useless. It's not useful for something else. We do philosophy for its own sake. So for example, I don't do philosophy in order to get a job, in order to make money, in order to buy stuff, in order to enjoy it, in order to do something else. No, that something else is philosophy. So I work in order to have free time, in order to have enough money so that I can do philosophy. Philosophy is the higher good. So it's not for the sake of something else. It is useless, right? And that's a bit of a hard sell. A lot of philosophers probably won't say that because, well, they could be a little biased though, right? If you're trying to argue that a university should teach philosophy to students, we should have this liberal arts program and the students will have a broad exposure to ideas and be more balanced, and they'll be able to be asked thoughtful questions and be able to analyze assumptions, help people to think through assumptions in various areas of life. That's one argument. Another argument is, hey students, come join this philosophy program because it's completely useless and you'll make no money doing it, right? It's not very appealing, right? So people's desires is another idea I guess I came across in philosophy. This is mostly in Thomas Aquinas's interpretation of Aristotle. He kind of points out that we have to distinguish between deep and profound desires and more superficial desires, because I think he's working within this framework and kind of assumption and belief that how can we know if something is good and make a person happy and it's desirable and good except that people desire it, in fact. Yeah, this is ancient philosophy, so this is not really modern philosophy, which I think would tend to emphasize the flexibility of human purpose and people being able to choose or create their own purpose and meaning in life. This is kind of more working within the framework of, we are given an essence, we are given a certain nature, and we're born with it. We're born with 2 hands and fingers and feet and eyes and ears, and we're born with what we are and what our function is. And so that's kind of more narrowly defined from the context of emphasizing what it means to be human, like why are we here, right? So these ideas were kind of floating around. I'll give a quick story of like how I thought about this. One day I was like really tired and I just passed out on my bed. I probably slept for like 5 or 10 minutes, but I really fell asleep hard. It felt like I slept an entire night. And I woke up so well rested. I felt like I was floating completely free of cares and concerns. And I was just like, wow, it's really surprising that I exist. Like, I'm just here. Like, it's incredible that I exist. And, people talk about, for example, what's the likelihood of, a sperm meeting an egg, particular one that I was born or that my parents met or that their parents met. What are the likelihood of all these things occurring? And a person might assume, well, it was determined, it was necessary, inevitable that each person who exists now. It has to be that way. Whereas my experience was sort of like, what's the likelihood that I myself would be here in this body experiencing this in the universe is like 1 in a trillion times a trillion. Like, it's so impossible that I exist. It seems so unlikely. And I really felt that, right? Yeah, so again, lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. So deep desires and superficial desires. Oh yeah, talking about human nature, I guess, is like, so Aristotle gives this example, okay, a human hand. What he's trying to look at what is a human purpose, and and what will make people happy, and he's saying, okay, well, what makes a hand a hand? It's something it feels, it can grab things, so like presumably its purpose is to grab things and to feel things and manipulate things, right? So what is a human purpose? He's kind of he's beginning to draw an ought from an is, in a way. He's sort of like, and again, that's I think a little bit taboo in modern philosophy, but Aristotle is sort of saying human beings have a certain form to them, and we can observe them, what they actually do, and we can draw from that what is their purpose, what is their function, what is their end, right? Their final cause, drawing them and pulling them towards like whatever. So they have this nature, and what makes them what they are, right? Their soul is the substantial form of their body. So people have this body. First of all, maybe they start as there's like pure potentiality, what might be the prime matter, and an agent, some sort of force, reduces that potentiality into actually existing things that are real and at different levels of existence. But in the case of the human body, it's reduced to the human being, and what makes that body what it is, like as distinct from a pear that I just ate, is that I ate the pear and it became me, it became my body. So what makes my body different than that pear? It's my soul is the substantial form of the body, right? So the form is what makes it what it is. And we have this nature that's just given to us. We have this certain nature and function that's just there, right? Whatever that is, maybe however flexible that is. And at some level, it just given, like, I had a dream when I was probably 5 years old. It might have been 3. For some reason, I think it was really young. I remember I was looking at like a toy, like a dollhouse, kind of like a toy castle, playing with little things. And then all of a sudden it came clear that I had to choose what I wanted to be. And I said, oh yeah, maybe I'll be a snake. That's good, I'll be a snake. And they're like, oh, sorry, let me help you out here. Come over here. I think this one's good for you, you know? I'm like, okay, that sounds good. I'll be that. Are you really sure you want to be that? Yeah, I'll be sure. And then they're like, well, you know, you're going to be going away from this. And I'm like, they're like, don't worry, you can always come back. Like, how do I come back? Don't worry, you'll figure it out. Like, you know, so I had this dream when I was like, yeah, I think I was like 3 or 5 or something, of choosing to be a human, I guess. But no, like, most people would say, like, I didn't choose to be here. I didn't choose to have hands and legs and arms. I'm just here, right? So anyway, I think my philosophy degree was like that, right? It was like thinking, you start to get these pieces of what, my advice, I guess, would be like, if I would do it again, I would have taken a much more historical approach. So I don't mean history, like I had to take quite a few history courses, which I didn't like. Although my teacher used to always say, you can't do the counterfactual. You can't run the counterfactual. Like, you can't say, what if this hadn't happened in history? Would have things have been different? Like, you can't know that. So I do appreciate learning a little bit about that, but I would take a more historical approach. I would try to focus on the development, the history of ideas. Okay, just take an idea, you know, take one philosopher from the year 100, take one from the year 200, take one from the year 300, and sort of show the development of these ideas a little more. But I don't know, I was just like, you know, chewing on ideas at random, I guess. Which I don't know, I kind of liked it. But yeah, so I don't know. Sorry guys, my train of thought is not very good right now. I guess to kind of recap, yeah, so the difference between deep desires and kind of more superficial desires was one idea that kind of really stuck out to me, because it's like, okay, how can you tell what is really good except that what people desire? And you can argue, oh, well, just because people want to do something doesn't mean it's good. Or just because they want to, like, murder someone doesn't mean that's a good thing to do. Well, no, but, like, to kind of look more deeply and say, how else would you know if something is good or not? So when someone says, listen, this is really important to me, this is really what I want, this is what, you know, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? The freedom to pursue happiness, I feel that's quite important. And so deep desires, yeah, like I really realize I don't know a lot. I don't know a lot about existentialism, modern philosophy. I didn't learn a lot about epistemology either. So it was like kind of mostly some metaphysics and moral philosophy, which maybe I'm not too much into these days, but yeah, like I guess I did appreciate a little bit about that sense, that feeling of givenness, you know, the givenness of existence, and the kind of that we're just here, that I'm just here. Try to appreciate that, to try to believe in the goodness of life, the goodness of, you know, existence and of my children. So in that way, yeah, I enjoyed doing a degree in philosophy. Would I recommend it? I don't know if I could recommend it at all. Like, that's not maybe my place. But yeah, that's my experience. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.